winning is great. Don't get me wrong. And it's definitely the icing on the cake. But, sometimes people will ask me and I say, winning has a cost emotionally and financially. There's a cost to winning. And I think you have to really line things up. In 2023, I became the yes person because you just get so eye on the prize, right? You're just like, you just feel it in your bones.
You talked about why you give athletes a large portion of the summer off. How do you do that and still win Summit? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are doing an interview with Tiffany Hayes of Chico Cheer. And I'm going to let her introduce herself as I do with all of these interviews, but I am going to read a little bit of what she gave me prior to the interview before I turn it over to her. And I'm super excited to be sitting down with Tiffany. She's a fellow West Coaster and we're far away from each other, but on the West Coast, it's not that far. Really excited to be chatting with her today and learning all about their gym and kind of how they've been growing over the last 20 years. So Tiffany submitted this beforehand. So we've got Tiffany Hayes is the founder of Chico Cheer, and she has been a part of the program as the director for the past 20 years. Tiffany has built not just a program, but a legacy, developing athletes, creating community, and setting the standard for cheer in Northern California. All right. So Tiffany, that's the quick synopsis of who you are and where Chico Cheer came from. But tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey in the cheerleading industry.
Okay, well, I'll keep it relatively short, but I like to think I was one of those 90s, before All-Star was even All-Star, when we were kind of grounding up cheerleading. I always did Pop Warner cheerleading. My mom signed me up every year, and I looked forward to watching my babysitters do cheerleading and friends of friends doing cheerleading at Carlsbad High School, and I just always admired the cheerleaders and wanted to be just like them. And I was fortunate enough that as I entered junior high and my Pop Warner days were kind of coming to an end, my mom kind of nudged me to join this gymnastics class with a coworker's daughter. And from there, It really just evolved, It was one gymnastics class that evolved into, hey, we have this cheerleading team that doesn't cheer for people. And I was very, very hesitant. I remember my mom speaking to me about it so much and pushing me. And I was just like, I don't get it. Why would we do a cheerleading team where we don't cheer for anybody? And that just evolved. I was an alternate. And then all of a sudden I was on this cheerleading team. And how it just naturally evolved back then is, I always think I was so fortunate to be in an area. I grew up in Carlsbad, California, where cheerleading was so dominant at such an early age of the sport. And I got to watch, that program grow, and I get to continue to watch that program grow. And I just feel so fortunate that I was put into this sport at a relatively young age of junior high. And I just have gotten to see it evolve over the years.
And so for those that don't know, Carlsbad has an amazing high school program.
They do.
And if you don't know, you should check out them. There's multiple videos of them throughout the years competing. So really great program there. And what inspired you to go from a cheerleader to creating this cheer brand, this company? Because 20 years ago, we're talking 2005-ish.
Yeah,
so
2005, 2006. Yeah.
All-Star Cheer hadn't really taken off too dramatically. It existed, obviously. I mean, I was coaching in 05, but it was definitely not even close to what it is today. So what set you on that journey? And were there even any other programs in Northern California at the time?
Not to where I was coming from. So, I left Carlsbad and I left, what was then called North County All-Star Bullets to venture to college at Chico State. And, I kind of went and looked at the cheerleading team and I was like, yeah, this isn't what I'm going to do. And I just started coaching at the local high school and I loved it. And I didn't think I would. I didn't have plans of coaching the high school when I came to college. I thought I was going to party and go to school. And And then I evolved into like, how am I now? And then it was like I was coaching Chico State. That happened somehow. And then I just got to know more and more people in this kind of small town that grew pretty rapidly. And it really was so organic. It was in 2005, and I think we pulled the trigger on May of 2006. And it was just really my college athletes and my high school athletes. And they kind of were like, these rules are so insane. And there's no all-star gym. We had kids coming to Chico State that had been in the Bay Area. And they're like, why is there no all-star gym here? And I'm like, I don't know. And so it was kind of foreign and weird that there was nothing. And so they were like, you should do it. And I kind of just did. It was weird, but it just was so organic. It wasn't like I had this plan to open Chico Cheer ever. And my mom would joke and she'd be like, I did not send you to Chico State to do cheerleading, Tiffany. So, but here we are. So.
And so what did you major in college? What were you actually in? Did you have a different life plan at that time? And what was it?
Yes, I did. And I still kind of have a partial other life. So I majored in dietetics, and I ended up getting a master's in that as well, and my license as a registered dietitian. So I kind of, do that on the side, but it coerces so much, in our industry. And I always say cheerleading made me become a dietitian, and being a dietitian really, helps me with cheerleading.
Man, that's a fascinating conversation I did not expect to have today, but we are definitely going to dive into that, because talk about an industry that needs more understanding and knowledge and support from a dietitian, like a diet standpoint. So, wow. Okay. So you went to school to be a dietitian essentially. And then we said, you know what, this running a business as a cheerleading gym sounds like a good plan for me. So how old were you when you took the leap to open your gym?
So I was, let's think. So that was, well, gosh, Dan, now you got me.
I don't have to date you. Like you can say a ballpark, mid-20s.
I'd been in school, I came to Chico when I was 18, and I finished the grad program after seven and a half years. I was definitely in my late 20s, but, it definitely was not in the plan at all. We started at like a gymnastics facility. And then, I had like a super old school cheer guy doing my choreography, Leighton Clark, back then. And he was like, why are you not opening a cheerleading gym in this town? And I was like, he's like, there's nothing. I mean, you guys probably, I still think now, I at least I tell people because I don't know otherwise, I think you guys are the closest to us if you go up. I don't think there's anything between us.
There are a few very small gyms.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we're 3 hours away from the Bay Area, which people don't realize that. They're like, no, Chico's right next to San Francisco. I'm like, no, it's really not. And so I think between like Bay Area, there's so many programs, right? And then there's us. And then I tell people, I think if you go up, I think Oregon Dream Teams is up there, but I don't think there's much between us.
Yeah, there's a few Oregon gyms. Some of them are a little bit newer, but like in terms of California, NorCal is technically south of you, right?
Yes.
Which is wild that they're NorCal Cheer and
yeah, it's like they're
further south, but they're a great program.
Yes, but very Bay Area, and there's so many great teams in that area, right? So inundated that I feel so fortunate to be like up here.
Yeah, so you decided to take the risk and open a gym in your mid-20s ish, so fairly young. What was that journey like, jumping into being a business owner and being young and probably having parents that were older than you, and you're coaching their kids and running the business? Like what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was actually really, I actually call that the good old days. I look back and I just feel, now I'm fortunate enough to see like second and third generations coming into our program. And I always, hug the grandmas and stuff that were my team moms back then, because people just appreciated you so much. They were just happy to have you there. And I didn't even feel like a business person. or a business owner. I just felt like I'm their cheerleading coach and we're going to try and win. It's just naive. Tiffany was just there to like, we're just going to do everything we can to be successful. And I guess I really didn't know what I was doing, and I figured it out as I went. Like all of us, I think, did back then, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I felt, and I'm not sure if you feel this way, Dan, but I really felt like the parents back then, they just did trust the process because they didn't know anything else. Well, now there's social media and they have expectations. Back then they were just like, what? We won and we're going to go to Florida and we're going to win there too. And it was just different.
It was certainly a different era, and there was a lot less of the, I didn't win this big event, so now I'm going to go to this gym, or I'm going to move out of the state, or there was a little less of that. I think I really started getting into gym ownership towards the tail end of that era. Like that started happening fairly early on in my career as a gym owner. I think it was like our fourth year, I think, that one of our athletes went to California All-Stars to go, be on SMOED and have that experience. But yes, when we first started, it was very much, and when I first started coaching, it was 100% that. The USASF didn't even exist. So we were still competing at high school gymnasiums, and scoring was whatever it was
the Wild Wild
on the
West,
given weekend. Yeah. You changed your routine from weekend to weekend to meet that score sheet and take out the things that were illegal for that competition versus the next one. And it was a different era for sure. Very fun. So when did the rose-colored glasses turn into, holy moly, I'm running a real business here and I gotta figure some things out? When did that shift for you?
I was fortunate enough that I never got in a difficult situation in those early years. I just kind of set things up correctly. I had a couple mentors guiding me a little bit, but I never really started to look at, oh my gosh, we have to really look at this, until we moved into our location we're at now, which was really early on. We were only in the gymnastics facility for 3 years, and they were kind of getting annoyed with us, you're taking over. And so then we moved to a super small facility. And then I think we lasted in there 3 years, and to where we're at now, which is just literally across the street. But that's when, the rent starts adding up, and the PG&E and the liability, and, all the things that nobody really thinks about. They think that every gym owner is making hundreds of millions of dollars off of them. But we all know that there's this background of expenses we have to cover. And I think that's when, and my husband probably went are we really doing this? And I was like, yeah, I think we are. It was early on, but I would say year 8 or 9, that's when I was oh, we got to really jump on that.
We got to take this thing seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just a hobby anymore. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it. Right.
Right. So at that time, how big of a facility were you moving into? Because it was your third facility, moving into that building across the street. How big was it? And how many staff did you have at that point in time?
So I've always been a small staff kind of person. I am. I think we're really close, and obviously things change and people's lives change and people filter in and out. But we really try and keep our staff around 5 to 7. And back then I wanted to say we kept 3 to 5, just really core people in our program. And the kids and families really love that. Now we're between 7 and 9 always, just to keep things moving. But I think we were in 2000. I think we're in 4 now. And so we're still a relatively small facility. And sometimes the kids will complain, and I'm like, you have no idea.
So when are you going to move to a 10,000 square foot building?
Right. Well, that's the part about California, right?
It's so cheap. It's so cheap.
It's
Real estate abounds.
They see the new Top Gun facilities, and they see the new California All-Stars, and they see all this on social media, and I'm just can we take that off TikTok? Because there's something super intimate about being small.
Absolutely.
We're always right there.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the program. What is it that makes Chico so unique? Obviously the intimacy and that maintaining that family feel, but what are kind of the different revenue streams that you focus on, and what do you guys do that makes you different?
Well, we've always, had that All-Star is definitely our foundation. always has been. I'd say the second foundation, even at the original facilities, was our class program. It's a relatively small town. It's expanded over the last 15 years, but we don't have a lot of gymnastics in our town. The tumbling part has always been very successful for us because kids that don't even want to cheer want to know how to tumble, right?
Right.
So the All-Star is definitely our foundation. We still say we have the same teams we had back then. You know, we really focus on lower levels. No interest in ever having a world's team ever. But we focus on the lower levels. We focus on the class program. We focus on our half year, what we call prep cheerleading is relatively successful as well. And then, you know, on the side, we do the Friday night outs, the open gyms. Everybody loves those because, you know, the boys can come, the girls can come, everybody can flip. It's kind of fun to see new faces come in. And of course we do, you know, the birthday parties. Chico has, it's a fun, funny little town. You know, we don't have a lot of gymnastics, but we have a lot of birthday party locations.
Oh, interesting.
I know. It's so weird. Like there's 2 new ones going up that are just like kids play places for birthday parties. I'm like, wow, this is like a real special niche. But we do really focus on All-Star and on tumbling. And private lessons are a big thing. We have a lot of dance studios in town. I don't know if that's everywhere, but I think there's like 10. It's a lot. It is a lot of dance in Chico. And those kids want acro, you know, they want to do walkovers and aerials and all the things. So we have a lot of them that just do private lessons, but really tumbling and cheerleading is definitely our specialty. And I feel like when we've tried to branch out to other things, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't because I can tell we're not passionate about it. Right.
Right.
And
that's such a huge thing that I'm sorry, I have to stop you because you said it. And it's so frequently, I think, overlooked because there are so many opportunities out there to make revenue, right? Like, and I remember when Ninja became like the big thing and everyone was like, you got to do Ninja, you got to do Ninja, you got to do Ninja. And it's like, yeah, but if you're not passionate about it, if it's just an aside of like, well, I want to get boys tumbling. So here we're going to do a Ninja program. We're going to have 1 staff member and here's a couple extra mats. Is that really worth your focus? And I think it's such a key thing as a business owner. It's just amazing that you kind of thought this way, which is like, you know what, this is who we are. And this is what we're really good at and passionate about. So let's lean into that more. I love that.
Oh, good. Yeah. It's funny because you say that because we just had a Ninja place open in town and just like a week ago. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But it's like, I remember they were really pushing it. Like you said, just pushing Ninja. And I was just like, I don't want to do Ninja.
Yeah. And there's also a bandwidth. And for you guys, especially with 4,000 square feet, you only have, I mean, every square foot is valuable. And so if you're going to carve out time in your very limited day to offer something, it better be good. You better be able to charge a decent price for it, and it better fill up. Otherwise, you got to pull.
Yeah, it's not.
Pull the plug quickly.
Yeah,
and say, let's do something better. So,
right.
Because with 4,000 square feet, what does the layout of your facility look like? If you're doing All-Star Cheer and classes, I imagine you're leveraging your space pretty creatively.
Yes, definitely.
So, how do you do that? What do you guys do in your facility?
So we're fortunate enough that after we moved in, we built a couple offices too in our pro shop. So that was kind of a little addition that we added. So we definitely have like our little space in the beginning, but once you're in, it's very open concept for good reasons. Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we always start the day with classes when the kids are just getting out of school. Like every day starts with a class, you know, at 3:00 when we open, it's classes. And then as we get into like the 5:00 hour, we start running teams. But here's the thing, you can run a team and still have a private lesson. You can have 2 private lessons. You can have 3 private lessons. How many teams really use a floor? You know, we have the tumble track, we have the air track. It's not ideal, but it also gives those kids an opportunity to see what we're doing, right? So they might be doing a private lesson, or it might be our acro class with 7 kids, and they're working on their front aerials, and they're like, oh, wait, that's what cheerleading is?
Right. There's another option for me other than just dance.
Right. And so I think there's a benefit to it, for sure. I'm not saying that there's definitely not like the crunching of numbers, like, well, at 6:30, if we have junior team leave and we have senior team go, there's always going to be that. Always. But for the most part, like we double dipped last night and I was like, we can make this work. Like partition off the floor, you take 2 panels, they'll take the rest. And it's just, we don't have another option. So they kind of have to make it work.
Yeah, 100%. And I hear gyms all the time talk about, lack of space. And trust me, I'm guilty of it. We moved into a 21,000 square foot facility. And even now we're like, man, we're out of space. But
wow,
we have 2 teams that have to practice on one floor together, 2 teams of 20 plus each, and they're on one floor together. And then a tumbling class of 30 kids is on a floor, and then a rental with 20 kids is on a floor, and you got 3 classes over here. And it's just like, there's stuff everywhere. And so we tend to expand to fit the space that we're in, grow to whatever that is. So I think it's great and such a great lesson for people to know, like, hey, you may only have one spring floor, but that doesn't mean the only thing you can do is one team practice in that hour. You can leverage that space better. And like you said, how many teams really use the entire floor the entire hour? Like you need the entire floor for a full out.
Yes. But the back, like,
Exactly.
There can be like
when you're repping your stunts or repping your pyramid, move forward.
Right. It's just, yeah. I think they kind of like when you first tell them we're gonna do these lessons during this, they're kind of like, but I think once you just pull the trigger and do it, I think you're fine.
I mean, of course, there's no cheer coach in the world that's going to say no to having their own floor. If you gave any of my coaches the option and said, hey, would you rather have the gym be totally full during your practice and share your floor? Or would you rather have no one here and you get the whole gym to yourself and can play the music as loud as you want? You get every piece of equipment. Every single one of them is going to say, give me the whole gym, please.
Right.
What do we expect?
It's just, it's the same thing for me. It's like, I love our senior team practices later in the evening. And it's like, sometimes I like turn around, I'm like, oh, there's nobody in the bleachers. This is so nice. Like it's quiet. I can hear myself think. I can like actually make sure the 8 count sheets are right. Obviously it's ideal, right? We all want to work in peace and quiet, but it's just not realistic.
No. And not for running an effective gym. So, okay. So we have tumbling classes, we have private lessons. I love that you went down the dance acro side. I think that is it depends on your area. Mm-hmm. Some areas, the dance programs, they offer that within their space. They have coaches for it. The kids aren't looking for it. But the vast majority of dance programs don't have tumbling coaches and or the equipment. And so that's something we've expanded into even more so recently and even opened up now, acro for dancers classes, and they are filling up like crazy. These kids are just dying for them. And what they're used to paying for dance, they're coming over and seeing our prices and being like, oh, that's really good. We're priced pretty competitively.
Yeah. Especially for like private lessons and stuff. Absolutely. And I think once establish
dance privates.
Yes. And I think once you establish like this like understanding, like once in a while, and I'm not sure if your staff does that, they're like, oh, she's really good, I'd like her for team. And I'm like, where do you dance? And they'll drop the studio name, and I'm like, yeah, we're not asking her, because we have this unwritten law, right? We don't recruit their kids, they don't recruit our kids, and it's really never become an issue. So I think those dance studios feel safe saying, she's struggling with this, can you send her to Chico Cheer for a couple of days and see if they can speed it up a little?
Yeah, that's such a great thing that you have built those relationships and that your staff kind of understand, because I'm a competitive coach too. I understand there are the times that I look over and I see the kid tumbling and I go, who's that?
Yeah. Who's that girl?
Why?
How old is she?
Why are they not filling this spot on this team that I need a human for?
I know. She's 15. Great.
Yeah, exactly. Age eligible. Awesome. And then the next question is, where does she cheer? Or like, what program is she on? And then when they're like, oh, she doesn't cheer right now, that's like, okay, game on. If it's she cheers at XYZ high school, I either know that those high schools share or they don't. And that means they're off limits for the time being. And if they eventually make the decision to switch and come to us at the next season, that's one thing. But
right. Absolutely.
You mentioned a couple things prior to the interview, and I'm just now really curious about it. You talked about why you give athletes a large portion of the summer off. Man, I want to know how the heck you give, like, what does that mean? Give them a large portion of the summer off. How do you do that? And if we can get to it, how do you do that and still win Summit in Junior 2, which is like 90
A bloodbath.
teams? No big deal.
I would love to get out of that division, Dan. I just like keep thinking, when can I leave this division? Because I don't want to compete against 500 people every single year.
It's brutal.
It's brutal.
It's a brutal division. Junior 2 and Junior 3 are like insane.
I will never do a Junior 3.
Because of that reason.
So yes, it is and part of me thinks it's a location thing. Part of me does. And I don't know if you have this in Oregon, but what I found in this town is kids want to do everything. They want to do FFA. They want to do volleyball, which just ended, thank God. They want to do Chico Cheer. They want to do high school cheer. They might want to play girls football. They might want to play basketball. Like, they want to do all the things. I've recently kind of had this epiphany, gosh, life is so short, right? And these kids have such a limited amount of time. Why can't we let them do as much as they want to do, right? And maybe part of that is I have a kid that wants to do everything. And all of our coaches are on the same page with that. Like, all these kids want to do all these things, and we have a big fair in town, and we like these kids. We love that they're diverse and they do all these things. So we have every federal holiday off. Even if they don't have it off from school, like we just had Columbus Day, I still give it to them off. And people are like, we could really use that Monday practice for that November competition. I'm like, yeah, we can. But I don't know about you, but when was the last time you had dinner with your family? Because I can tell you I haven't had dinner with my family, So the kids, I think, love that, like that they know they have these little holidays each month to just like chill. And then it just kind of expanded that you get back from the summit and you're exhausted. I mean,
and it's right into tryouts and right into,
yes.
I mean, that's what everyone else does, right? That's what we do.
Yes. And you feel like you've been hit by a bus. And I'm like, if I feel this way, and financially, it's become such a big toll on these families, right? And so then you're going to ask them to drop another couple $100 or more to re-register all the things. And we used to have this mentality, like, if you let them take time off, they won't come back. And I just kind of was like, we got to change that. Like, I actually don't think this is working. I think kids are burning out. And I think we're actually having kids like, she just needs a break. She just needs a break. So we decided a couple years ago, we're going to literally come back from Summit, do a banquet, and wait. So like literally Summit is their end all. And then they have a break. And the same thing with our other teams. They're going to, we did the youth summit, and we're not doing that anymore, but we were doing the youth summit. Now that's just a big trip to like go to youth summit and then go right back the next week to the other summit. But we're just like, this year, they're going to end at the celebration on the West Coast, which is in April. So they'll have even more time off. They'll end in April. They'll come back and do like a 2-day tryout in May, but they won't actually like start again until after the 4th of July.
Oh, wow.
Which is like, people are like, that's crazy. And I'm like, it is, but we get a break. And the gym does well. We have summer camps. The kids get bored, so they'll take a tumbling class. They have time to get that skill for the tryout. And then if they try out, and I think you might do this too, if they try out in the end of May and we place them, we don't put them exactly on a team. We'll put them like on a summit team or a prep team or, a level, but we won't like finalize everything until later in the summer. But we're like, hey, you know what? If you made Junior 2 and your goal was to make Senior 3, like you now have till July 8th to work on those skills.
Yeah, to prove us wrong, essentially, right? Or get those skills more confident.
Yes. And then we let those kids come to practice. Like if they're like totally devastated, like I really wanted to be on Senior 3. We're like, okay, come to practice with us. We'll kick you out during choreography if you're not going to be on the team, but like come show us that you can hang with them. It's no sweat off our back. If you think you're good enough to be on that team, come. And then when, obviously when it's August, September, you're like, okay, this isn't, now we have to have the real team in here. But we give them that opportunity to grow, because like this year during choreography, I was talking to Calvin, I'm like, when do these kids have time to get better? Other than in the season taking extra tumbling classes, like, I just think if we could get a season of sport, it would be, I think, a blessing. A blessing and a curse.
Yeah. So the elephant in the room on that discussion is, and why I think so many, there's two two frames of thought. One is the like, well, to be competitively successful, you have to do it. And I think we talked ourselves out of that mindset during COVID, especially for us on the West Coast. We had such weird rules that like we came back from, we had the lockdown, and we didn't get to start back until like from like May, or no, it was March, I think, that we went into lockdown. March to, I think, July was when we were able to start doing camps, which of course meant we all started training again. So we started having some kids back in the gym, started training. And then most of us on the West Coast went into like a second lockdown for a couple months where it was like we couldn't do anything.
100%.
So we weren't really able to practice. Like we were doing maybe once a week practice, I think is what we were allowed to do. Like we had to give enough time for them to develop symptoms and all. We were doing all this weird stuff. And that was a year that we did really well competitively. But we had these massive chunks of time where we weren't training. And so we were like, okay, well, maybe that isn't actually a valid perspective. But the other train of thought is, which I obviously go to, is my rent's really expensive. And if I don't collect tuition from my all-stars every month, that's huge for us being a very heavy all-star program. So we either have to replace that revenue or have that revenue. So how is it that you continue to be financially stable as a business and give them the time off and not be paying like tuition or those fees?
So what we do is, and it works for us, it's worked for us the last couple of years. I haven't always done it, but we've switched to an all-inclusive tuition. And with the all-inclusive tuition, I always just explain to the parents, we've taken it all and we've divided it up into these months, kind of like daycare. And the daycares did this during COVID, I noticed, because I had kids in daycare. So you still had to pay even if you weren't going, right? Even though they're not in the gym practicing, they still start paying tuition in June. So essentially, we don't ever have a month where we're not getting tuition. They pay tuition in May because we're going to the summit. They pay tuition in June for the next season.
So what do you do for someone who joins in August or September? Do they back pay? Do you like divide it out?
Yeah. They back pay so that can be really hard. We had a kid do that on our junior 2 team this year. And she joined late and she's like, why is my registration really a lot of money? And I said, because back paying 4 months, it's all inclusive tuition. So there's pros and cons to it for sure.
Yeah, I would say the other conduit, which I know you work with Next Gen, you have some resources, so we make sure that our people avoid those mistakes. But where a lot of people get themselves into trouble is when they make an all-inclusive tuition, they wouldn't do a back pay like that, and B, they're going like, this is a number I like, and they're just kind of picking a random number rather than breaking down. Like, you can do all-inclusive tuition. I've talked about it on the podcast why I don't like it.
I need to listen to that episode.
Well, we can chat about it a little bit because it's an interesting conversation. As long as you take all of your fees, all of your assessments, all of the things that you're going to bring in, those pass-through fees, uniforms, competitions, coaches fees, all those things that you need to charge to be financially viable, to run a competitive program. As long as you take all of those things and you add them together and you put in some sort of a profit margin, because you should have a profit margin on those things. There is a cost of delivery. You're paying someone time to size and order and sort and distribute uniforms. Like, there's a cost. And there's a cost to register people for competitions, all those things. So you need to build in that profit margin. And if you take all of those things and you also set your tuition correctly, so you're bringing in the proper amount of money per athlete, per team, and with a profit margin and all of those things, you've set that, and you do all of that correctly, and then you just add it together into 12 months and divide it. Can you do that as an all-inclusive tuition? Absolutely. And that can be very simple. It can work out well. The reason I don't like it is only from a sales perspective. If you do all of that work, it's fine. I'm collecting the same amount, charging tuition and assessments. I like that I get to say, hey, your tuition is only X. And then on the 15th, we bill you your assessments, which is Y, rather than putting those two things together into a much bigger number. So it makes the number a little more palatable from a sales perspective. That's the only reason I don't do an all-inclusive tuition, because it is simpler to explain, right? How much is it? It's $620 a month. I don't like saying it's $620. Which ours is not. It's close to, I think it'd be like $5. It depends when you join, but
yeah, and what type of
it'd
team you're
be
on.
upwards, up in the $5s.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't.
But you can always chop it off with that like initial deposit. And I think, what really changed my mind on it, like, especially, like I said, in the last few years, is I wanted to know like what the overall cost was. Like, I started thinking about it, and we did a lot of surveys, like on the band. We did a lot. Like, we would ask the parents, like, would you rather do 2 competition payments? Would you rather do 1 competition? And then it would kind of just evolve to like, just give us the grand total. We just want 1 payment once a month, keep it easy. And then if they want to add stuff, like my most 3 of my teams wanted to add a competition in November. I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be this much, like they know that this only covers this, and we don't go outside of that. We don't compete more than that. We don't change our minds. We had a music thing this recently. It was like, it's going to cost this much to do this instead. And I was like, no, we no, this is what it is.
It's not in the budget.
It's not in the budget. I know that's really hard, because I will tell you that year in 2023, I became the yes person, because you just get so eye on the prize, right? You're just like, you just feel it in your bones. And you're more recent with it, with your level 4 team. So, and it's like, you just know when you have something special, right? And you're like, this could be the team that wins Summit. Like, right? Like, you just kind of know. And so you start like saying like, extra music, extra choreo. Let's bring Troy in to clean up the pyramid. Like, you have 10 people involved in this routine. And it's like, your checkbook is just going.
100%. Yeah, it can be. I think the most dangerous gym owner is a gym owner who actually also loves cheerleading and is like still in the coaching game, because we can be our own worst enemy financially, because we're like, well, it's my decision. So, yep, we're paying this extra money for choreography, or that music is way more sick, so we're getting that. We can get into our own way. Whereas sometimes when you have those people who don't do cheer, but they started a gym because their kiddos were in it, or they're just like, they just wanted to own a cheer gym. Those people are a little less emotionally attached. And they're like, well, why would I do that?
Right.
What do you mean? Like, you would be like, we need to bring Troy in for pyramid. And they'd be like, why do we need Troy? And you're like,
they don't get it. They're like, isn't this fine?
Edgren. Like, they're like, oh, who's that?
Yeah.
Like, it's Troy. He does the hand thing. And then he makes the perfect pyramid.
Yeah. Right.
And you're like, of course, that's why we need the Troy. And they're like, no, he's too expensive, or he's out of budget.
Yeah. It's like, if we're getting a 1.7 in dance, we know we're not going to win, right? Like,
yep.
We're not. So we're going to bring in somebody to clean up our dance. Like, I think that's the other thing I've learned is winning is great. Don't get me wrong. And it's definitely the icing on the cake. But, sometimes people will ask me, and I say, winning has a cost, emotionally and financially. There's a cost to winning. And I think you have to really line things up. I'm not sure if you agree with that with your team that just won, but you have to really make sure that you're chopping away at the block in the right order, and you're bringing in the right people at the right time. And especially with, Worlds and D1 Summit all being so close together. I don't know about you, but it's like, I've had somebody doing a virtual cleanup while they're at Worlds helping another team. And it's just crazy, but winning has a cost.
Yeah, I think it does. I think winning consistently really has a cost. I would say we actually, with our level 4 that just won, we did not compromise too much. Like, we didn't go crazy outside of our budget. Actually, we didn't do a bunch of like cleanup stuff. We had our choreographer come out. He came back to finish dance. That was the plan the whole time. We did get a new mix, but it was a gamble. The new mix we got was one of my old athletes who cheers at Weber. And he was like, hey, I have he had been doing music stuff, and I'd actually never been like overly in love with his mixes, but he was like, hey, do you have a team that would need a new mix? And I was like, honestly, I'm not in love with my level 4 mix. If you wanted to take a stab, like, it's fine. I'll use it. And then he came out with this mix and it was really good. And I was like, okay, we're going to use it. I mean, it was one of those, he just did it. Like we paid him a little extra because it was good. He didn't even ask for any payment. So we didn't do a lot of that. But I think to win consistently over and over repeatably, yeah, there are going to be those years that you have to do that extra where you need the extra push and you need the extra kick. And quite frankly, I might be there right now where I've got that team where I'm like, you could be it, but you're not yet.
Yeah.
And
we got to do this.
Like need to pull out all the stops to make sure you get to that it, because I see the potential kind of side. So
right. 100%.
Backtracking a little bit. So was it a challenging pitch to your parents to say, hey, look, we're not going to have practices, but you're paying in the month of May and June and July, or really the month of June, right? You really take June off. Is that?
Yeah. Because I feel like actually my friend Chris inspired me, Chris York of Cal Spirit, to take off that whole week of 4th of July because we were like coming back for the 4th of July and nobody was there. I don't know if you guys, but I was like, he's like, why don't you just close till after? And I was like, that is a brilliant idea. Because everybody leaves town for the 4th of July. They all go to the ocean, I called it. But yeah, they go to the coast. So yeah, the end of May, you've already collected tuition, right? Because you're still going. You're going to go to the summit, except for those prep teams that ended or non-summit teams. We do their tuition differently so that they can end in April. But when they pay that tuition in June, you get a couple. Like maybe I get 3. And they're like, why am I paying tuition? Like my kid's not in the gym. And I'm like, well, it's an all-inclusive. It's very few and far between. We make it very clear.
I think it's good that you recognize that it's a few and far between. Like, yes, people ask questions, but so often we as owners and entrepreneurs, we want everyone to be happy. So when like 2 or 3 people ask and they're like, well, why am I paying? We're like, everyone is freaking out. And it's like 3 of your 100 clients asked a question. But like in our head, we're like, oh my gosh, this was the worst thing ever.
Why am I getting these emails? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I got so many emails. You got 5. And it's putting it in perspective. I think you're onto something super interesting. We really do take the month of July off for the most part. So we take the week of the 4th pretty much off. And then we go to our camp. So we attend dream camps, obviously, because I own it. It's huge. A bunch of all-star teams come in and we go to camp. So we do 4 days of camp. And then they don't come back until the very end of July.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they get throughout the summer, they really do get about 4 weeks off because we take a week off. We just break ours up a little bit. Like we take the whole week off before school starts to just let them get like situated in life together and take a last vacation or do whatever. So we try to give them some time. We tried a really weird tactic 3 years ago. It was right after COVID. And we were like, man, we don't need to practice this hard. So we said, you know what? We're going to do intensives and you're going to show up for 3 days each month for 4 hours each day. And we're just going to train intensively. We're basically going to do like mini camps. It worked. Our parents actually didn't love it. They were like, we'd rather just keep the kids training. I don't know. I kind of liked it because it was like, you came in for I coached 2 teams. So like I did 4 hours with one team, lunch break, 4 hours with the other. Did it in 3 days. And that was equal to the amount of training they were getting in a month anyways, in terms of number of hours. And then it gave them time to travel. It gave them time to do camps or do tumbling classes or privates and really develop skill. Because your question of like, when do these kids get better is also such a important question.
Yeah. And I think that's, like I said, it comes from having, my other kids in sports, and it's like, they have seasons, like baseball's ending this weekend and then they go into basketball. And so he can train baseball up until spring tryouts, or he can train like right now he's training basketball because he has tryouts next month. And it's really interesting to see other club sports perspectives. And they've taught me a lot, especially about the all-inclusive tuition. As a parent, I would rather pay one set fee. And I'm like, okay, this is how much this costs every month. I can budget for it as a parent. I think I've evolved as an owner in that aspect, just watching how they do things as well. And just taking a piece of what everybody likes. I also want to say though, we also take a week at Thanksgiving and we do 2 weeks at Christmas. And then we do a week.
Me too.
And I just don't know how people don't. They're like, we just practice all Christmas. I'm like, what?
Who's there?
That's what I would have like 2 kids there.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me that like people are like, and I had somebody say that this year. They're like, do you think we could practice through holiday? And I was like, no.
Yeah, my response is we'll have some tumbling clinics.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have
You're
tumbling.
welcome to do those. No, we take those off. We used to way back in the day, back when everyone was like doing the keeping up with the Joneses. For like perspective, it was like when PCM was at its height in terms of like the most gyms. I felt like that was the era when just it was like practice more, bling more, just like over the top. Everything. And if you weren't doing what Smoed was doing on the latest YouTube video in terms of how you trained, then you weren't doing it right. We were like coming back. We would take like 3 days off for Christmas. It was like the 24th, 25th, and 26th. And then we were back to practice. And I remember just as a coach being so frustrated, and my coaches were all mad because they'd be missing so many kids. And it was like, and then the kids are mad at each other because they're like, well, I came to practice and you didn't come to practice. And it just created a rift that was so unnecessary. So we were like, hey, school's off, we're off. Like, enjoy the break. We'll see you back on the 3rd or whatever is the day that we would normally like return to school. My families don't complain at all.
No, it's just, I just think there's so much life now, that there's so many things going on that we just need those breaks. I don't know about you guys, but we're also intense practicers. Like people are like, you only practice twice a week, or we have some teams that only practice once a week. And we're like, yeah, but you come in those 3 hours, those kids are grinding,
We do practice 3 times a week, but our practices are pretty intense, especially for our elite teams. They work really hard. We still have the Sunday practices. I've over the years been like, maybe we don't need those anymore, but
I've heard both sides of those, and I've considered them, but I know a lot of the boys teams a lot of the boys sports practice on Sundays too, and I've heard that like you do a normal and then everybody comes in on Sunday. We do one Sunday a month. So the first Sunday of every month, all of our teams come in. So it's kind of like a compromise.
Yeah, I do love my Sundays though. They're just like, they're a little bit longer. They're 2.5 hours, and we just like get a ton done.
Oh, okay. I would see the benefit of that.
So we've gone for a while. It's been an absolutely awesome conversation. I hope everyone who's listening is enjoying it. The dietitian thing. So I want to touch on this because we are in a sport where diet is a real challenge, right? We have poor body image issues, but I think there's so many prongs. We could do a whole episode on this because the diet of even of your athletes, but your coaches and your owners generally sucks because we're working during the dinner time. So we're oftentimes you're grabbing, it's tempting to just like grab Taco Bell or whatever on your way home because you're exhausted from coaching and it's 9 o'clock and nothing else is open. But even the kids, same thing, the amount of kids you see coming in and they're eating some processed cup noodles and then they're a bag of candy, hot Cheetos out on the mat. And then the flip side is the kids who are not nourishing their bodies at all because they're trying to stay small. So what is your approach as a dietitian? How do you tie that into what you do at the gym?
Actually, I'm just going to say this. I think Lindsay from World Class Cheer really said something in the last few years that really inspired me. She said something like, don't tell them who you want them to be who you want them to be. And I've like never stopped. Like I literally think about that quote almost every day. We don't have like big conversations about it. I'm not going to lie. I don't like kids to overanalyze food too much because they're kids and you want them to have fun and try things. But we found that, by the time they're on a senior team, they say mainly their junior year, sophomore to junior year, they start making a connection of what they put in as a result of what's going out. So I always try and keep that in mind. And I really try and only talk to like our junior and senior teams. But I am big on leading by example. So it's kind of like, I'm sure you don't allow your staff to sit, right? Like nobody's allowed to be sitting at practice. We're all standing, correctly with the posture we want the athletes to have. We're doing what they want them to do. We're trying to have a good attitude because we want them to have a good attitude. It's the same thing. So when we take a water break, we take a water break. I'm like 5 minutes and then I give them a countdown. I might have my jar of salad or vegetables or proteins and stuff like that. And the kids will come up and they'll be like, oh, what do you have today? And then I'll be like, oh, it's kale with da-da-da-da-da, and I have some cheese and chicken in there and eggs, and they're like intrigued by it, right? And then my other coaches do that. I have a coach that She's really big on protein. So she always has all of her protein. And we encourage them. We're like, bring a simple carbohydrate that you know you can digest, put a little protein in there, have a snack with your water break because you guys are going hard. Some of them will get dropped off for a tumbling class at 3:30 and they're there till 9. So we talk about that. But we also, I will say, I think the foundation is during choreography. And now I guess it's somewhere in our policies because somebody brought it up the other day that I'm not a big Gatorade person. I'm like, I am not anti-Gatorade. I just don't think we need Gatorade for an hour-long class. But we only do water now. We do Gatorade ice cubes. You want to bring Gatorade, parents? We'll do Gatorade ice cubes. But we're not doing like gallons of sugar. We're not doing that. And then my team moms provide a real dinner, like a real dinner. Like they used to bring in like bagged chips and candies and crap, right? But now they don't. They bring in like a real dinner and we stop choreography and we eat a real meal and they love it. They feel better.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's front of mind for me because I've been talking to my athletes more about it, just from the perspective, not even from the perspective of like losing weight, or luckily don't have any athletes that are struggling right now with a bad relationship with food. But I even see it like with my daughter a little bit, and she's 12, but she, is like, still, she's a flyer, but she's like starting to mature, and that may be her career path moving forward, or she may become a base. I don't know. She's fairly small, but she makes comments about like, I can't become a big back and like those kind of like, yeah. And she's joking.
Right. But then there's like a little bit of truth.
But at the same time, I'm starting to have conversations with them at home because I'm like, hey, so eating buldak ramen every meal is like not good. Like it's a lot of sodium. It's like, let's look at what's in this and what's actually like, let's get some balanced protein and vegetables and some things in your body. But then talking about it with my athletes from like a recovery perspective, because I'm like, you guys, you're putting this stuff in your body. You're wondering why you can't heal from that nagging injury, or you're sick all the time, or you're tired every time you come to practice. The first thing I ask a kid when they're in a bad mood or they're tired at practice is, what did you eat today?
Or did you eat today?
Yeah. Or did you eat? And oftentimes they're like, oh, I had a Red Bull and a Monster. And I'm like, so again, what did you eat?
Yeah.
Oh, I had some Oreos.
Yeah.
No.
You're hangry.
You didn't eat today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get you a freaking, at least a granola bar, which still has too much sugar in it, but something with like a carb, a slightly better carb. So it's such an interesting perspective that I think is very ignored in this industry. As a dietitian, you've got to just be like rolling over not in your grave, but like you've got to just turn your stomach at competitions to see what these kids are eating on a daily basis.
I kind of encourage outside food and I just keep it simple. Like I tell people, like when we break at night, especially with my senior team, if they're like, and they're like, like I'm coughing because they were coughing, and you just vibe it. Like they're not drinking water. I'm like, can we make it a goal to drink 64 ounces of water all week? And like they'll just say, no, I can't do that. And I'll say 32. Can we do 32? And they're like, yeah, I could do 30. I could do 2 awalas. I'm like, okay, we'll do that. And can we eat foods that actually like grow, like not in a bag? Can we eat something that came from the earth? And they'll be like, yeah, like realistic expectations, because we can't make it too complicated, right? They don't get that. But I'm like, just like not something that like you have to open the bag and you hear that crisp, like eat something that like requires refrigeration.
Yeah. If you don't have to refrigerate it, it's probably not something we want to be doing.
So that's, keep it simple and fun. And we make light of it. And then, we all have our Big Mac days or whatever it is. And when we do, we joke about it, and we make it fun, but it's not every day. I tell them that's not every day.
Right. I love that. Absolutely love that. Well, so I have kept you for almost an hour. This has been phenomenal. It's been such an interesting conversation. I hope people took some stuff away from it. I think one of the unique takeaways from this conversation is one, obviously what we just talked about with diet, but like there's not a one size fits all. You don't have to do it the way that everyone else does it. And sometimes you need to reimagine what you want your program to look like, which you've clearly done with intentionality. I jokingly said, when are you going to move to the bigger facility? And at the end of the day, if you're in a space that works for you and you're happy and your revenue is good and you're living the life you want to live, then you don't necessarily have to feel pushed to, well, now I've got to have what Cheer Athletics has. Like, I just opened a 21,000 square foot facility. We moved. It's beautiful. And then I saw Cheer Athletics' new space and I went, well, mine sucks. Right. Instead of being like, how amazing my space is, I was like, look at that. They have 4 spring floors side by side and with a big, huge gap in between, and then 4 more floors. Like, they have 8 floors. It looks like NCAA warm-ups with tumble tracks, just embracing and being where you are in your journey and like fully living. If you're happy, be happy. I just love that you guys seem to be doing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We will never move into a bigger facility, although never say never.
Well, you can if you want to. Obviously, if it's the right time or it makes sense, I'm here for it. We can have that conversation. Sometimes if it's not broke, you don't need to fix it.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you, Dan. I really enjoyed. We've been so close yet so far. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you because I just feel like we're never at the same events because we're like West Coast, but we're not close enough. Maybe this year.
Well, if you come up to Portland at any time and, you want to be around the homeless camps or any of that stuff, we got you up here.
I am coming for one event this year, so maybe I'll find you.
Which one?
I don't remember the name because it's my first time coming, but I know it's important. Because they said
is it in February?
Maybe. I think I'm supposed to dress like a Portland person. And I was like, I don't know what that means.
I don't even know what event that is.
It's a varsity event. So
yeah, we're at all the varsity events in Portland. You guys do you compete D1 or D2?
D2.
D2. So we are in the D1 division this year.
Oh, so. Okay. Well, I'm going to look for you. And
okay, that sounds good.
And you still have a level 4?
I do. Yep.
Okay.
Medium 4.
I'm going to look.
Okay. We'll see you there.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.